adversaries. I will ferry to cemeteries, then I'll bury my arrival. Rap survival, co-defending the title. Assassinator, resuscitator, star invader of the late great Cape Crusader.
YouTube salute. Here to talk about one of the greatest Africans in the 19th century, Frederick Douglass. Frederick Douglass was born into Maryland slavery in 1817 to a slave mother and a slave master father. Young Douglass toiled on the rural plantation, later in Baltimore shipyards as a chalker. Douglass, however, learned to read and soon sought out abolitionist literature that alleviated what he termed the graveyard of his mind. He eventually escaped to New Bedford, Massachusetts in 1838 and took the surname Douglas, which he borrowed from the Scottish romance novel Lady of the Lake by Sir Walter Scott. Douglas's wife, Anna, followed with their 5 children. She worked as a laborer in a New Bedford shoe factory, while Douglass became a world-renowned anti-slavery orator. And another fact to let you know about Douglass, he actually beat his slave master for his freedom. A lot of people don't know that. Douglass published his slave experiences in 1845, entitled Narrative of the Life of Frederick Douglass, an American slave, written by himself. Having publicly declared himself a fugitive slave, Douglass fled to the British Isles to continue his outspoken campaign against American slavery. After 2 years of lecturing in England, Scotland, and Ireland, Douglass's freedom was purchased by abolitionist friends, and he returned to the United States a free man. Upon his return in 1847, Douglass began his first newspaper, the North Star, which later became Frederick Douglass paper. Douglass's life spanned important decades of American history in which the contradictions of race, class, and gender were debated. Douglass played a crucial role in those debates. He spoke out against Northern race prejudice as well as Southern slavery. He challenged segregated Sabbaths, either white or black, and criticized the race prejudice of the immigrant labor organizations, which excluded black freemen. Douglass once remarked that his son could be more easily become an apprentice in a Boston law firm than any working man's organization. Even while realizing this fact, Douglass became a strong advocate of industrial trade school education for the black working man. This is right before even Booker T. Washington. In 1848, Douglass was the only male speaker in a Seneca Falls, New York convention in which Elizabeth Cady Stanton and other activists issued a Declaration of Women's Rights. Douglass gave arguably the most famous oration, "What to the Slave is the 4th of July," in Rochester, New York on July 5, 1852. His theme was that American liberty was a fraud, replete with thinly veiled crimes that would embarrass a nation of savages. As the U.S. rushed toward the Civil War, Douglass was forced to choose sides between African Americans who wanted to return to Africa and those who wanted to remain in the land of their birth. Beginning in the 1830s, a series of national Negro conventions held in various northern cities debated whether to go or stay. Douglass advocated remaining and fighting to change the United States. During this period, Douglass was confronted by the black nationalist Henry Highland Garnett, who in 1843 called on the slaves to rise up and strike for their freedom, and by Martin Delany in the 1850s, who schemed with the American Colonization Society in support of immigration to Africa. However, with the passage of fugitive slave law in 1850, even Douglass began to entertain radical and violent solutions which would help blacks gain their freedom and at the same time restore American slavery. His new radicalism led him to support John Brown's raid by permitting Brown to stay at his home for planning strategy. With the outbreak of the Civil War, Douglass urged black men to support the war effort and specifically to join the Union Army with essays such as Men of Color to Arms. 2 of his sons were among those men who joined the all-black 54th Massachusetts Regiment. After the war, Douglass served as president of the Freedmen's Bank He recognized the failure of Reconstruction in an 1888 speech entitled "I Denounce the So-Called Emancipation" of a stupendous fraud. In the remaining years of his life, Douglas served as a variety of federal positions, which included America's Consul General to Haiti, posts he held simultaneously with the position of Charge d'Affaires to Santo Domingo, which is now Dominican Republic. His activism continued even with the last few years of his life. Working with Ida B. Wells, Douglas co-authored the indictment against the organizers of the 1892 Columbian Exposition held in Chicago in an essay entitled "Why the Colored American is Not in the World's Columbian Exposition." Frederick Douglass died in Washington, D.C. in 1895. An essay written in 1857 captured his unrelenting zeal to fight against injustice when he said, "Those who profess to favor freedom and yet depreciate agitation are men who want crops without plowing the ground. They want rain without thunder and lightning. They want the ocean without the awful roar of many waters." Powerful, powerful, powerful. He's one of my favorite, not African Americans, but African leaders throughout the African diaspora in history. Post your comments below. Hope smash Black Panther, the like button, subscribe to my channel, click the bell icon and be notified when I upload new content and go live. If you'd like to support and donate to the channel, I have Venmo, CashApp, PayPal, Streamlabs, everything's in the description. Till next time, peace.